Come on in, you guys. We got a brand new episode of Jimmy Rants in store for you here today. JimmyRants.com is the website. As always, if you want to engage live in the show, we do go live Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, sometimes 5 p.m. Eastern during the week, and then sometimes on the weekend, but almost always 11 a.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday. Go check it out over on Instagram. I am at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMEN. Once you are there, you can enjoy the content live. That's what Pamela and Meg are doing right now, and bunches of other people are coming in right now. So thank you guys for being here today on Jimmy Rants. We're also simulcasting live over here on my Facebook page. So thank you guys for being here, as well as on YouTube Live. I love my whole family of Jimmy Rants fans. Thank you guys for being here today. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay for up to 24 hours. After 24 hours, it does disappear. At that point, be sure to pop on over to JimmyRants.com. You get to see all the past episodes over there. And then finally, we do put all the past episodes up over on YouTube. Just type in the keyword Jimmy Rants. You will find the show there. But guys, today, I have had this burning on my heart for a little while. This topic I'm going to bring up here today. And I've got a nice little article that I found about this. One of my followers on Instagram told me about this article, and I actually know the author of the article, and what he expressed in there said a whole lot of things about what I've been thinking. So you guys know we've been in this world of COVID-19 for about 2.5 months now, and people are saying all kinds of things out there. A lot of people are giving good information, just trying to help people stay encouraged through all this. Others are putting out information that's a little bit maybe misleading or designed to keep you fearful. I would say much of the mainstream media has been doing exactly that for a lot of the reasons we've talked about here. They want to stoke the fears, blah, blah, blah. One phenomenon that I have noticed over and over again during this, as a content provider and as someone who would talk about COVID-19, not from an expert standpoint, but just throwing out questions and throwing out information, is when you put something out there that runs counter to the official narrative and the official dialogue of what's going on and what they want you to know, you're almost always identified as a conspiracy theorist spreading misinformation, and that you need to be silent. Have you guys noticed that? I mean, I know people who are being very overt about sharing this kind of information, where they put things out there. They're a little wackadoodle. I think the most extreme one that I heard about was the people that said, well, you know, while we're all in lockdown, they're putting up 5G towers, and so the 5G is going to help spread the coronavirus and da-da-da. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a little wacky. I have never been one of those people who latched on to any of these conspiracy theories. What I am in the business of is sharing information. And as part of that information, sometimes it's going to be things that run counter to what you hear in the mainstream as the mainstream narrative. And you would think when I would post things like this, you would think that people were having the grandmamas talked about, because they would come out the woodwork. The other day I did a analogy that I posted all over social media. I posted this analogy about having a splinter in the finger, and that most people who get a splinter, you just pull it out, it's no big deal. But some people have a deep enough splinter that if it stays in there, it gets infected, and your life is in danger if you don't do something about it. And of course, I was using it to be an analogy of most people who get the COVID-19 aren't really getting these major symptoms, and yet they were making it seem like everybody had the deep splinter that was putting their life in danger. And so I was simply asking the questions, why are they hyping this up so strongly to the point that people are so fearful that if they get COVID-19, it's an automatic death sentence? So that was the question I threw out there. And oh my gosh, you should have seen the people coming after me saying, you're not taking this seriously. You need to get with the bandwagon and realize this is extraordinarily serious. 80,000 people have died. How can you be so heartless? You better hope you or your family doesn't get this, because if you do, then you'll change your tune. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like in the post itself, I acknowledged twice, yes, this is real. Yes, people are getting COVID-19. Yes, sadly, some people are dying from it. All I was asking was, why are they hyping it up to the point that we're so fearful of people getting COVID-19 when the vast majority of the people who are getting it either have no symptoms or they recover with little to no effects? Now, that's not to say people aren't getting sick. That's not to say there aren't some abnormalities. It's not just one segment of the population. That's what's made this so hard. They've identified a lot of common statistics where the elderly is one of most of the people getting this and dying from it. The metabolically unhealthy or those who have comorbidities, that's another one. These are just facts. But sometimes you point these things out and people are like, well, you're just denying that this is the dangerous killer that it is. And so it's almost to the point that you can't really say anything because people seemingly have become conditioned to believe it's one way and no other way. So when you present something that's an alternative viewpoint, suddenly they lose their cotton-picking minds. Have you noticed this? Like, this seems to be pretty ubiquitous across the board. You can't really say anything too much off the script of wear a mask, socially distance, wait for the vaccine, all this stuff. That's all the things we're being told right now. And so why can't we ask questions? This has been my problem from the very beginning of all of this. I am a thinker. I'm someone who looks at things and I have questions. Blame it on all my podcast recording over the years that I have interviewed some of the world's best experts in the world of health, which, by the way, I have 2 guests coming up on the Livin' La Vida Low Carb show that will be talking about COVID-19. One I am interviewing today at 1 o'clock. And Dr. Ravi Kamapali, and he is an infectious disease expert who thinks that we need to be telling patients to improve their metabolic health and to improve their immune health, rather than saying just sit back and hope that a vaccine gets made. So he's a little bit off the beaten path of what is being put out there, but that's the kind of information, and we need people speaking truth that we're not hearing from the top down. And then tomorrow, I am interviewing my friend, Dr. John Lemansky. You guys might remember him. I used to do a podcast called the Keto Hacking MD podcast with him last year. And so John and I will be talking about his frontline experience working with patients with COVID-19. He's currently living in Puerto Rico, but he is consulting 7 hospitals, all who are dealing with patients dealing with COVID-19. So he's got firsthand experience helping patients, what's working, what's not working, how the messages that are being put out there aren't always great, and then the things that we're doing well. So I look forward to talking to him. I'm going to try to air both of those on the Livin' La Vida Low Carb show next week. If not, definitely within the next couple of weeks. So these are the kind of things people want to hear about, because we do seemingly have this idea that if you go off the beaten path, you're suddenly denying COVID-19's real. You're suddenly one of those people spreading misinformation. You're having people come after you simply because you have a differing opinion. And the last time I checked, when you are a thinking person, one of the biggest things you do is you ask questions. On my podcast all the time, I never prepare questions. I always listen to what the guest is saying, and based on what they're saying, I ask questions from that. And people right now are asking questions about this COVID-19 thing. And I don't think asking questions is ever a bad idea. Asking questions means you are inquisitive, means you're trying to get to the bottom of things. It means you're not accepting as a mind-numb robot what's being told to you. Now, some people are like, well, you should just believe everything that's being told to you. And I have a Jimmy Rants idea of why people are so distrustful of information from authority places like the media and like government officials and that kind of thing. I definitely want to keep doing some research on that, but I have an idea for Jimmy Rants to talk about the psychological reasons why people don't believe. But it's okay to have healthy skepticism. That is how you grow. That is how you learn. And if people never ask questions, how do you break out of the rut of what is commonly believed? Think about it from the standpoint, I'm a little bit in rant mode. This is Jimmy Rants. Think about it from the standpoint of nutrition. What have we been told for the past 40 years is the ideal way to eat, to lose weight, and be healthy? That's right. Low fat, low calorie, and then exercise till you drop on a treadmill. That's pretty much what we've been told. So whole grains are healthy for you. Saturated fat is the enemy in your health. We've been told these things again and again and again to the point that we become conditioned, we become primed to believe them. What shifted that when people, and still a lot of people still believe that, but what shifted it and what could shift that in people's minds? What shifted it for you? What shifted it is you had people asking what if questions. You had people like Gary Taubes put out a book called Good Calories, Bad Calories that questioned that hypothesis. You had Nina Teicholz coming out with The Big Fat Surprise. Again, questioned the whole veracity of that way of eating and whether it was truly healthy or not, whether it was actually based on science or not. And because those people questioned it, now in the mainstream debate of ideas, we have people asking, well, what if a high-fat diet is good for you? What if eating lower carb is better and healthier for you? Whereas 30 years ago, that would have been preposterous to even bring up. But why did it happen? People asked questions. So the simple asking of questions is not a bad thing. Ever, 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 ever. And the moment we stop asking questions is the moment we're a whole bunch of lemmings. You know what a lemming is? So when you basically are just kind of going along to get along and going with the flow, whatever everybody believed, you believe, and we're just a bunch of robots. The last time I checked, human beings are not robots. We are thinking beings that have our belief system. We have, certain things, circumstances in our lives that have gotten us to where we are, and we have the ability to question. And people take offense to questions. Questions are just questions. Why make this hard? Why assume that when somebody is questioning that they're trying to spread misinformation? Questions is a great way to refine what you think you already believe. And if you stop asking questions, then why in the world is it worth even being alive? Just become a robot. If you're never going to question anything, you're just going to just follow the crowd. Okay. But part of what makes us uniquely human is we question things, and the questioning in and of itself is nothing more than just trying to get a little bit deeper to the truth of what's going on. So apply that to COVID-19. A lot of people are just not questioning anything. They're just going with the flow, and they're the perfect lemming. And quite frankly, there are certain people who would love it if the lemmings just kept being lemmings. What they don't like is us rebellious lemmings who refuse to just sit by and just take all the things we're being told, and we're simply asking questions, but then we're being ostracized for those questions. So let me get to this article, and it was written by a friend of mine. He used to come on the Low Carb Cruise quite a bit, but he's a fitness expert who's been out there doing his thing. He's got a great blog if you've never seen him before. Tom Nikkola is his name. TomNikkola.com is his website. And so he wrote this article, What If We've All Been Primed? And he's getting to the heart of what I'm talking about here today. Because there are things and messages that are being put out there that whether you realize it's doing it or not, they're priming you to believe a certain way. They're priming you to prevent you from asking any questions. And if you do, you're labeled. And if you do, they come after you. We're going to get into that here in a second. See if any of these phrases sound familiar. We're all in this together. Stay home. Stay safe. We'll get through this. This is our new normal. Have you heard any of those phrases before? Yeah, I think these have been the common refrains over the past couple months. And they're all so well-meaning. Think about them. oh yeah, stay home, stay safe, we're all in this together, we're going to get through, it's our new normal. It just seems so innocuous, right? Well, listen to what Tom has to say about this. These words have been repeated so many times that you would think they were selling the latest superfood. They're not selling a superfood at all, but is it possible they're trying to sell us something? So Tom's wife's name is Vanessa. He said, Vanessa and I were playing our morning card game, drinking our coffee in early April. Just before the news shifted to the commercial, the news person stated, stay home, stay safe. Then the commercial comes on. One right after another used all the phrases that we mentioned at the beginning. This was the moment that I first realized how often we've been told those phrases and how they're coming at us on a daily basis. Of course, once you notice something like this, you can't not see it and hear it anymore. And I would encourage you guys, watching TV, listening to news broadcasts, listening to the radio, whatever your source of reading things and seeing things and hearing things is, pay attention to this. Are you going to hear these phrases over and over and over? You might be surprised, because once you've had your eyes open to this, you can't unsee it, as Tom said. Welcome to the Baader-Meinhof Phenomenon. Perhaps my bringing it up to you will make you aware now too. So there is this like I said, Baader-Meinhof Phenomenon. It's B-A-A-D-E-R, second word M-E-I-N-H-O-F, phenomenon. I probably mispronounced it, but you can look it up. Whether the coordinated use of all these phrases was some sort of a nationwide scheme created by a group behind the curtain, or if it was just simple coincidence, we now have been primed, and it's had a visible impact on everyone's thoughts, words, and actions. I mean, think about those phrases. We're all in this together. Stay home, stay safe. We'll get through this. It's our new normal. I've heard some semblance of every single one of those almost every single day since all this went down. And they seem so totally innocuous. You don't even think about it. And yet, what if saying those repeatedly is priming us to have certain thoughts, words, and actions? Which could explain why some people have a little bit of a problem when people start asking questions. And again, I ask, what is wrong with asking questions when you're not totally sure of what you're being told? And that's what they're getting into here. Though its effects are controversial, psychologists, researchers, and marketers have all tested behavioral priming since the middle of the 20th century. If you're not familiar with this idea of priming, it is the ability to influence someone's thoughts, attitudes, and behaviors without them even knowing you're doing it, through exposing them to a previous stimulus. So let's go back to the diet realm, for example. Healthy whole grains. How many of you thought whole grains were healthy simply because when they talked about whole grains, they called them healthy whole grains, as if you have to kind of throw the healthy in front of it to make it healthy? I think we all did. Or how about this one? Artery clogging saturated fat. Did you believe saturated fat was artery clogging? Why? Because they called it artery clogging saturated fat. You see how very manipulative that language is, and it primed you to believe that whole grains were healthy and that saturated fat was artery clogging. When you stop and think about this, it opens your eyes very wide open. And even the smartest people who you would think would not be fooled by these tactics, they get fooled by these tactics again and again and again. When you repeat the phrase, stay home, stay safe, it could be a form of priming, as it has the potential to impact the way people think or don't think and just do, speak, or act. When they said, go home, stay home, I remember I was out on the interstate recently here in South Carolina, and all of the signs, all the little digital road signs owned by the state were like, go home, stay home. Now, I get it. They're trying to like enforce some of the social distancing and to keep, flattening the curve, blah, blah, blah. But the message was, go home, stay home. So people read that, oh my gosh, okay, well, I should go home and I should stay home. And so we're becoming primed, becoming conditioned to act the way they want us to act. So in an article published in the European Journal of Social Psychology, the researcher John Barg said the following: the past 25 years has seen amazing empirical advances in our knowledge of the kinds of psychological concepts and processes that can be primed or put into motion unconsciously. Social norms to guide or channel behavior within the situation, goals to achieve higher performance, to cooperate with an opponent, or to be fair-minded and egalitarian, emotions that shape our reactions and responses to subsequent unrelated stimuli, and of course, knowledge structures such as stereotypes and trait constructs for use in the comprehension and encoding of often ambiguous social behavior. And social behavior in and of itself can be produced unconsciously in the exact same fashion. Still more recently, though, priming efforts of even greater complexity have been discovered, such as in the non-conscious activation of deep cultural ideologies and other interpersonal relations. That was from 2006, you guys, when that came out. So, statements are made, beliefs are formed, and people do not like having their beliefs shaken. Like, can I just say commentary about that? If you are so afraid of your belief being challenged, can you get over that? Because it's people that refuse to let their own belief system getting challenged that never grow. They're the ones that continue to live in kind of a rut in their own lives because they don't realize that when you have a belief and it's challenged, it's not your turn to lash back in anger. When someone challenges your belief, you bring it on. You're like, okay, here we go. I'm going to find out what I believe and why I believe it. And I hate this notion that people don't like it when you say something that runs counter to what you believe. And it happens all the time. And when someone says something that you don't like, what's the first thing you do? Do you lash out? Do you have to tell that person what a horrible human being they are for believing that thing that you don't believe? Or do you say, oh wow, thank you. I didn't really think about that aspect of my belief. Now let me share my belief back. And then you have this tit for tat in a positive way, in a healthy way, where you learn from each other. But when you become so primed and so conditioned to believe things, then it becomes almost cultish religious belief, to the point that you can't even have it brought up and challenged. And don't get me started with this happening in the political realm. It happens so often, it's so ugly. Like, you can't even say something good and healthy to put out there without somebody saying, no, I don't believe that, and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm just like, oh, okay, that idea did not hurt you at all. Ideas do not hurt. If you are that upset by someone sharing a contrarian view to what you believe, maybe you don't really believe what you think you believe. And maybe you have been primed, like Tom is talking about. Maybe you've been, dare I say, indoctrinated somewhat. This is going deep today, guys, but this has been on my heart a lot, seeing all of this negativity, that every time someone says something that runs a little bit counter to the mainstream narrative of COVID-19, they're getting ostracized. They're getting railed against as if they're saying some great, horrible thing when all they're doing is asking the questions. I'm going to go back to Tom's article. Consider this statement. We're all in this together. Once you hear this over and over and over again, and then you start to unconsciously believe it, then it means those who don't follow any of the conventional recommendations aren't in this with you. Have you seen that? That, oh, we're all in this together. And then if you're like, well, I think we need to kind of take a second look at the stay-at-home policy, and maybe we do this, and then, oh my God, oh, wow, what a horrible person you are. We're all in this together. Can't you get with the program and just follow along and be a good lemming like the rest of us are? That's what's going on. You're considered an outsider at that point. You're easy to target for hate and slander. Guys, I've gotten quite a bit. Now, I'm used to it. Because long before COVID-19 came around, people were pissed off at Jimmy Moore for a whole lot of things. So I'm used to the hate and the anger being lashed out at me. But a lot of people, this is new to them. They haven't experienced this concept of people coming after them simply because they're asking questions. It feels okay to treat them as outsiders because people believe they have the support of the pack to do so. So when you say we're all in this together, you feel empowered because, well, most of us are in this together. And so then you know what that does? It provides a chilling effect on anyone else who would dare question the mainstream narrative about this. And so people actually do disagree with the mainstream narrative, but they're too afraid of the backlash of being an outsider and having that hate and slander thrown at them, so they stay silent. And you know the phenomenon that I've noticed here on Instagram and YouTube and on Facebook, I have lost following, and I'm not the only one. A bunch of people on social media right now, maybe you've noticed this yourself, you're losing followers because people are abandoning all of these platforms because of the hate and the slander and the ugliness that has happened because of this COVID-19. And it's disappointing. All right, let's go to the next one. Stay home, stay safe. This one implies that by staying home, you're doing something that helps protect people. To not stay home, then, would automatically mean you're putting people at risk. It sets the stage for people to easily buy into the idea that if you don't stay home, you're just being selfish. Have you noticed that as well? And I'll even extend it to the mask thing. Whole bunch of people wearing masks right now because that's what they're recommending that we do. But what about those people who do not wear a mask? Are those people being stared at and judged because, oh my gosh, you don't care about people? You dare put, okay, you're not sick and you're not worried about getting sick, but what about all the people that you could infect? Oh my God, you need to put on a mask. And there's this judginess that comes out. You know people are thinking that. And back to the stay home, stay safe. They feel like if you're not staying home, then you're putting people at risk. And how do we know? And what Tom asks in the next sentence, there's nothing to prove that this statement is accurate. Recent data says the exact opposite. 66% of the hospitalizations that have happened in New York happened because people were in their home. And so here they have the stay home, stay safe when over two-thirds of the people who are being hospitalized in New York are coming from people that stayed home and tried to stay safe, but they didn't. Now, I assume they got infected because other people did go out and did come back and did infect them. But the belief that stay home, stay safe, and then if you don't stay home, therefore you're not doing your part, you're judged for that. You ask the average person what they should do to protect themselves and the others, they would say, I should stay home in order to stay safe. So this is behavioral priming, which could lead us to believe something is fact, even when there's been no evidence to support it. Has anybody asked the question, show me how we know staying home helps us stay safe? And is it bad to ask that question? It is a commonly believed thing because it's been repeated over and over and over again. Again, behavioral priming. But have we asked the question, where do we have the evidence that staying home helps us stay safe? Very interesting questions that Tom is asking here. This would explain why some people feel it's okay to throw stones at those who believe in something other than staying home. They want to slander any doctor who suggests we're actually safer if we go to our jobs at work. Maybe their strong emotion comes from the fact that they've been well primed over these past couple of months to believe that staying home means we're staying safe. And guys, here's the other thing. There are a lot of voices of dissent that are being silenced. I know here on YouTube, they are doing an interesting job of basically silencing a lot of medical professionals who are saying things about COVID-19 that run counter to what the mainstream narrative is. They're just flat out deleting their videos and not allowing them to be seen. Why? Do they want us to be primed to believe things? Why is simply questioning and asking questions, why is that considered a bad thing? And especially when it's coming from a medical professional working on the front line of COVID-19, I want to hear from those people. What is your alternative perspective? I did a whole Jimmy Rants last week all about it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to offer up alternative viewpoints because that's how we learn. And the moment we close our brains and don't allow in dissenting viewpoints is the moment we don't progress. Are you guys okay with us just kind of having all these mantras thrown out there to, this is the new normal, we're all in this together, stay home, stay safe, we'll get through this, we're all waiting for the vaccine? Or, gee, I don't know, in the meantime, let's look at other options. Here's some questions that come to my mind, and then express those questions without being ostracized and censored all over social media. This is a problem. Finally, what about a new normal? What a perfect phrase to prime you to accept that life as we know it is different now in 2020 than it's ever been before. If you believe whatever we're told to do next is a part of that new normal, after hearing that phrase 1,000 times, you'll be less likely to question whatever that suggested normal might be. This is a dangerous slippery slope if you stop and think about it. Oh, this is the new normal. So the old normal doesn't work anymore because the old normal has to be out the window because we're in a new normal, and the new normal is what we tell you the new normal will be. And of course, it'll be a shifting goalpost until we figure out what we want to tell you and indoctrinate you with what that new normal is. Do you see how saying this is the new normal conditions you to accept a lot of things that, but for them telling you it's a new normal, you would never accept? Yeah, guys, it's happening. And whether you realize it or not, this is a very deep psychological effect that you might not even realize has been happening. So then Tom says, what if? I'm not suggesting this is some sort of global conspiracy or that a group of evil-minded people decided to take advantage of the situation we're in right now in order to create a different way of living. But it's possible somebody threw together a few such phrases like we talked about here today. They took off faster than a video on YouTube that went viral, but with far less pushback. Maybe it was all just a coincidence. So what we're asking here today is the question, what if? What if the phrases we've constantly heard over these past couple of months have shaped the way we think about our actions? The way we judge other people's actions, and the way we might accept a new life in the future if it becomes different from what we've experienced in the past. What if there are motivations behind all of this that are simply not pure? The only way to find out is by asking questions that challenge the paradigm. The weird part in it all is that once people begin to ask these questions, they're often met with an onslaught of hate and anger, which makes you wonder even more if there isn't something behind it all. The hate and anger, guys, is real. I have seen it. All I had to do was talk about COVID-19 in any capacity. I could say, you know what, if you're experiencing emotional distress over COVID-19, here's some tips that will help you to deal with that emotional distress so that you can stay mentally happy and healthy once this is all over. I've done those kind of Jimmy Rants videos. And you should see when I post that little snippet on social media, the kind of ugliness that I get back. Oh, well, we need to be in an emotional distress because this is serious and people are dying. Oh my God, we're going to have millions of people dead soon. And my first thought is, why are you infusing your fear about all this onto me? I'm trying to stay level-headed, and all I'm doing is offering support for those people. But you're not allowed to talk about it without them lashing out at you. They're going to lash out at this. This video right here, it'll be the irony of all ironies that I talk about. They lash out because they want you to believe what they believe. It's going to be funny. What if by simply asking the phrase, what if, you start to feel less concerned about COVID-19 because of the questions that you're asking? And you start to learn more about where we're headed as a country by asking those questions. See, I lay this at the feet of leadership. Then the government officials, the health officials, all in charge of this, they have let us down. They have allowed the fears to exist. They've allowed people to be so fearful of anything that runs counter to what the mainstream narrative is, because they're not giving us encouragement. They're not lifting us up. They're not trying to help the situation. What they are doing is fanning the flames by their ineptitude. And I get it. This is unprecedented as a world event. I get it. But this is where real leaders step up and they lead. Of course, I could be way off base with all these questions. If I am, I really don't mind, because I'm simply asking questions worth considering. Asking questions in and of itself is not a bad thing. In fact, I welcome people to ask more questions, because when more questions are asked, maybe something is asked that we need an answer to, that but for someone asking that question, we would never get the answer. And we need some answers. You agree? I think so. Not from simply following along with whatever we're told. So we all need to be asking more questions rather than accepting all of the answers. So again, you guys, what have we've all been primed is the name of the article. Tom Nikkola, TomNikkola.com. I know Tom personally. I've had dinner with him and his wife Vanessa. They used to come on the Low Carb Cruise with us, and really insightful column, and it definitely articulated a lot of the things I've been thinking about. But I've been seeing all these people who just like attack you when you say anything about COVID-19. Even when you're just asking questions and not really saying anything controversial, you're just asking these questions, people are like, you need to take this more seriously. Oh, you're part of the problem. You're spreading misinformation. And I'm going, simply by asking questions, I'm not spreading anything except a quest and a thirst for more knowledge. All right, let's see what you guys have to say here on Instagram first. Then we'll pop over to Facebook, and then finally YouTube Live. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website if you've missed any of the past episodes. Thanks for being here today. Rachel says, all in this together has always irked me. Every time I would hear that, I would stop and look around my apartment and see that actually, no, it's quite the opposite of togetherness. Rachel, I'm right there with you. I remember after 9/11, they used similar phraseology. We're all in this together. We'll never forget. And then 6 months later, we weren't together and everybody forgot. Yeah, it doesn't last long. Bonnie says, you shouldn't lose followers because you're only teaching people to think for themselves and consider different thoughts. I don't think I've lost followers because of the things I've said, per se. I think it's just a product of what's happened across the board. People detaching themselves from social media because it has gotten so ugly with people not bending. Bridget said, yes, it's all bull. It's sad that they want us to kind of bend to their will. And she said, no mask for me, not anymore. And again, I don't know where we have evidence. In fact, Dr. Fauci himself, just like a month ago, said, I don't know why you would wear a mask out in public. That doesn't make any sense. And that video's out there. He did a 60 Minutes interview on CBS where he said exactly that. And now everybody's, oh, you got to put a mask on, or you're helping to spread the disease. And so again, it's one of those things that maybe we've been primed to believe. And as Teresa said, there's no proof. No. She also said, if we actually wash our hands, why do we need to do that? Bridget says, this is not my new normal. No, thank you. Bonnie says, sometimes I feel like this is a thing of cry wolf. Other times they push beliefs with their words like fat kills. So when in this situation, it's hard to believe because we are lied to so much with the brainwashing. That's the thing too, that When you've been lied to by the very people who are now trying to tell you this is the way things are, and you've been lied to again and again and again about all these other things, how do you believe those same people are not lying to you now? Now, I'm not saying they are, but I'm saying it makes you question. Welcome Home says, what if this stupidity becomes the new normal? We stop questioning the medical community, government, or the new controls over our lives. Yeah. Beth says, I like questioning more always. I also like more questions always. She used my last name. That's cute, Beth. Mama Orrs, our Secretary of Health here in Pennsylvania, says this every day: stay home, stay safe. Yeah, part of the priming. That's kind of where we're at right now, Mama Orrs. Thank you, Instagram Live. Let's pop over here to my buddies over here on Facebook. What's up, guys? Thanks for being here today. See what you have to say. Jimmy tackles very hot topic head on without fear. Joe, that's my style. You know me long enough, dude. I feel like I can be a voice of reason because I'm pretty chill and calm and reasonable about this. Because I know people that like to be controversial for controversial's sake just to get eyeballs, and they're purposely bombastic. But I try to stay pretty even keeled when I talk about these kinds of things. Amy says that mindset seems to be prevalent in many topics. You're right. And again, diet is just one of them. I think politics is a great place where we've been primed to believe things. Think about like social media and little video clips and things that make you believe a certain thing about a certain candidate. Or a certain politician, and you believe those just from that little clip. And then those clips get repeated over and over and over, and then they become memes, and then suddenly it's the truth. And I'll tell you what's happened to me. I put a picture out there one time as a joke of a stick of butter on a plate. And I, made this face of that I was like acting like I was eating it. Now, when the camera was off and I took the picture, I did not eat the stick of butter, but it was kind of a joke. But then it became this meme to the point now that was 7-8 years ago I did that. And to this day still, people say, Jimmy Moore eats whole sticks of butter. So you see how people saw something, believed what they wanted to believe, and then just assumed that I'm sitting here downing sticks upon sticks upon sticks of Kerrygold butter every single day. Other than the 2 tablespoons I use to cook my eggs in, 1 or 2 tablespoons is pretty much all I use of Kerrygold butter a day. But then people are like, oh my God, you push sticks of butter on people and I can't believe you would do that. And I'm like, I don't. Oh, but I saw a meme. Okay, was the meme true? Oh, but I saw it and it had to be true because it was on the internet. Oh yeah, you believe everything on the internet? So yes, I've seen this personally, Amy, as you well know. Valerie says, so many people are scared out of their minds. They cannot think beyond what the media tells them. Some people are not used to thinking outside of the mainstream as it is. Yeah, I have always been one that has questioned everything. And I don't think questioning in and of itself is a bad thing. It never has been. Questioning means you are highly intelligent and you're evolved in your thinking enough to be comfortable to say, okay, I see what everybody believes. Now, how about this alternative perspective? And sharing that does not mean you're a hater. Just sharing this does not mean you're spreading misinformation. Sharing that just means I've got more questions. Let's refine what that belief is and test the validity of it. Nothing wrong with that. Joe says questions are not allowed. Are you an anti-vaxxer or something? Bro, do you even science? Yeah. When that Plandemic movie clip came out with that medical doctor who used to work for Dr. Fauci, and it was like a half an hour long, people were like, oh my gosh, it's being banned from YouTube, and we shouldn't be listening to that. She's anti-vaccine, and I'm like, okay, fair enough. But what about the information that was presented? Are you looking at it critically? Whether you believe it or not, what do you think about the information? What I tend to see is people say, well, she's invalidated because she had this and this and this going on. Oh, you should go look her up. She's whacked. Da, da, da. Somebody on YouTube said that the other day. Oh, I can't believe you even mentioned pandemic because it's got falsities and da, 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 da. I'm like, it's just information. If you don't believe said information, okay, at least now you have that information to make a logical decision about what you believe and why you believe it. Information does not kill. There's a lot of information that was out there long before COVID-19 that I totally disagree with. But do I want it banned from the internet? No. I want to see what the other viewpoint is, because sometimes what you believe shifts when you see new information that becomes compelling and makes you think. Why are we so afraid of thinking? I don't get it. Kira says groupthink is not good. It is not. I thought we celebrated diversity. I guess not diversity of thought, though. I like to hear all sides of every position to make up my own mind. Yes, Kira, you and I are exactly the same there, because I feel like if you have information, I would rather know the total amount of information on both sides of an issue, even the middle nuances of issues, and then come to a conclusion about what I believe. I think so many people's belief systems these days are all predicated on what they've heard, and it's a one-sided view of that belief. And I think in the political realm, there's a lot of people that believe politically what they believe because they've been primed to believe things. What's really fascinating as a public figure, and people meet me and they hear all the memes out there about, oh, Jimmy promotes sticks of butter. Then they meet me in person and they're like, you're nothing like what you're portrayed as, what I believed you were. And now I have evidence talking to you directly that you're a cool guy. And I'm like, yeah. So I try to tell people that. Don't always believe what you see and hear about people and things online, because most of the time it's not true. And I would encourage you, if you have that kind of belief, catch yourself and go to the source of the information, expose yourself. Like, for example, if you hear bad things about me and you think there's something bad about me, meet me, talk to me. I am an open book. What you see here on Jimmy Rants is what you get. And yet people have these beliefs that I'm this evil person that didn't really do keto. I'm a shyster who's trying to make money off the keto movement, that I like to sneak donuts, and that I'm really just a shyster, just saying whatever it takes to make lots and lots and lots of money. So that's kind of a belief a lot of people have about me. And then they meet me and they see how generous I am. I've donated money behind the scenes to a lot of things to help people. I give away a lot of books, and I just do things because I care about people and the message. But if all you see is what people say, then you would never see that side of me. Dustin said, my biggest question is people in mass seem to think we'll never go back to any semblance of normal, like going out in public will always be different now. I know I refuse to live in fear. Yes, I'm staying home. I'm working from home. I've gone out in public 5 times since March 11th, though there must be a time where we will be back in public, going to eat, movies, concerts, whatever goes back to at least a semblance of normalcy. People think I'm crazy. No, I don't think that's crazy at all. I think the most interesting one will be what happens when we're back in like sports stadiums to watch a football game, if we have football this year. What happens to that? Are people going to be socially distanced? Do you go to the grocery store now? Do you jump when someone gets close to you? I can't say I haven't, by the way. Yeah, things will be different. That is for sure. So, the world is flat, Jimmy. Didn't you know, says Joe. This is the moment we might die as a thinking species. Joe, I will always think, my brother, and I know you're the same way. And he brought up the 1984 Apple Macintosh Super Bowl commercial. Yeah, that was scary. People were mind-numbed robots. And then the one guy with the anvil that threw it at the screen kind of broke them out of that paradigm. But you're right. We are kind of all a bunch of lemmings. And I don't think enough of us do think for ourselves anymore. Kira says artery clogging saturated fat, and the video of the pouring hot grease down a sink drain is what they used. I love the counter to that on Twitter where a person said, I jammed a bunch of Brussels sprouts down my drain. Therefore, Brussels sprouts clog arteries. So funny. I've seen the same thing with a banana. Someone pushes a banana down a drain and it clogs the drain. So therefore, bananas clog your arteries. So yeah, it is funny, the imagery. And again, that's a part of priming, telling people, oh, look what happens when I put butter down a drain and it clogs up the drain, as if a drain is a human body. But that's the image. So it primed us to believe that that was true, and it never was true. Dustin says, I don't think people are lying to us. Just like with nutrition, most people think they're giving the best information because that's what they're taught. You're exactly right, Dustin, and that's the problem here. People have their belief system, and it's not really based on anything other than what they've heard and what they already believe. I want to challenge everybody watching this right now. Whatever you believe on anything, challenge it today. Just think about everything that you believe. COVID-19, nutrition, politics. Go across the board in your own personal belief system and say, okay, this is what I believe. What about the opposite? And then start thinking about, okay, why don't I believe the opposite is true? And it helps you refine your thinking. Critical thinking skills is one of the most beautiful parts of being a human being. And the moment we lose those critical thinking skills is the moment we lose a part of our humanity, which makes us no different than the animals if you stop and think about it. The thing that sets us apart is our brains are so much further evolved than animals. But it's only evolved further than animals if you actually use your brain, right? All right, let's see what YouTube has to say. Got a few comments over here. You just keep getting better and better, says Harpsy. Well, thank you. I will keep doing that. All right. Okay, no more over there. Let's see if there's any more over here on Instagram. You can't get wet from the word water. No, Beth, you cannot. If you got wet from the word water, then maybe some of this would be true. But no, just saying water does not make you wet. Just putting ideas out there that might run counter to the mainstream does not challenge you in any way or threaten you in any way. It might challenge your belief, which what's wrong with challenging belief? So asking these what if questions will bring you wisdom and, as Tom put it, comfort during this COVID-19 crisis and really during any part of your life. Are you questioning things? Are you asking these questions that might run counter to the mainstream narrative of really anything? Because if you're not, it's time you start doing that, because it's through that that you grow in your wisdom and your knowledge and your experience so that you become a much more well-rounded human being. That's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. As always, if you want to engage live in the content, you got to go follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you are there, you can engage live right here Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Instagram Live. I also sometimes do 5 p.m. ones on Monday through Friday, and then sometimes on the weekends, but almost always 11 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. So check it out. Thanks for being here today. We also simulcast over on Facebook Live as well as YouTube Live. So thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. If you missed the live, you can watch it on Instagram on replay for up to 24 hours. After that, it does disappear. Pop on over to JimmyRants.com for all the past episodes. We also put the past episodes up on YouTube in archive form. So definitely type in a keyword Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. I'm also on Tuesdays on the Livin' La Vida Low Carb Show podcast, airing the best audio of a lot of these Jimmy Rants as well. It's pretty decent content we do here, so we also do it in audio form on the Livin' La Vida Low Carb Show on Tuesdays, llvlc.com, and that's the ways you can enjoy the content we do here on Jimmy Rants. So guys, that's it for now. Until next time, we'll see you then. That's it.